Okay, guys, so this is going to be a demo to start you guys on kind of this face assignment or this face series. So in this series, we're going to be looking at eyes, nose, ears, and mouth. And so this first demo is going to be on the eyes. So what you're going to be doing is when you go into Google Classroom, into the classwork tab here, you're going to scroll down in distance learning, and it'll be the newest assignment you'll see at the bottom. So I'm just going to go down here. Um, so right now, I'm just creating this instructions page here on the face series. So that's where you're going to start. What you're seeing here isn't totally updated. I'm probably going to maybe change or add some things to this, but basically this just outlines what we're going to be doing. So what we're going to start off with is I have some examples here on eyes, lips, nose, ears that you can just look at, but I'm going to record a separate video for each one and show you how to do it. Basically, what I want you to do is I want you to tackle all four of these. So the eyes, the lips, the nose, and the ears, and we're going to do them as separate drawings. And what for this assignment, essentially what you're going to do is you're going to watch my videos and look at these example drawings, and you can practice as much as you want on your own. But then essentially I want you to turn in your best drawing of each. And you don't need to do a writing on this one. It's just going to be turning in the drawing. So I'm going to actually be putting up four different assignments. There's going to be an eye one, a lip one, a nose one, and an ear one. And so the idea is that you watch a video corresponding to each. Just read through any of these handouts. They're just there as useful tools to give you tips, things like that. Practice as much as you want, and this can be hand drawn or it can be done digital. So if it's hand drawn, just simple pencil and paper is all you really need. Um, but you're welcome to use whatever tools you have. If you want to do like a little watercolor painting, you certainly can, but you don't have to. Mainly, I'm looking at inaccurate drawing and shading is what I want. So whatever you feel like is going to be best for you. Um, so in this one, I'm going to go ahead and just do a little example on drawing eyes. So you can see I have a little example photo here. So now when you're drawing these, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You could take pictures of your own eyes, nose, ears, lips, and draw them that way if you want to, so you could work from a photo. Or you can just look up something online. What I'm going to do for each one is I'm going to have an example photo. So this photo here that I'm using, I will attach in here as an example. And if you want to draw from this example, you could do that. That would totally be fine. Um, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Canvas drawing program. Once again, you don't have to do this. You could do it hand drawn if you want to. So I'm just going to go into the Canvas app and I'm going to start an eye drawing. So let's say that I've practiced on my own and I'm comfortable doing my final eye drawing. So this is what you would do. So I'm going to go to the Canvas program. Once again, as long as you're logged into your Google account, it should just save everything that you've been working on. So this is a drawing, this is a full drawing that I've did. I'm going to attach that in as an example as well so that you can see that. But this is a drawing I did kind of based on this here. So basically I'm going to try to draw this again for you guys. I'm not going to draw it as detailed just for the sake of time, but I'm going to just kind of show you the steps. So I'm just going to do a new canvas drawing. Oh wait, I did new from image. Hold up, close that. I just want to do a new drawing. Okay, so here's what I recommend. I recommend you start with a light drawing underneath as usual and you work in layers. So I'm going to just start with like a red guide drawing underneath. Um, and the one thing that happens, I'll just do kind of a silly example here. This is the most common thing I see from eyes is when students are drawing eyes, they just draw like this basic almond shape. Like this is pretty much like what a lot of eyes look like that I see kids draw. And that's not really what an eye looks like. Your eye isn't just like a straight up almond shape. It's similar. I would say it's more similar to something like a lemon or a lime, but it's very unique and very organic. It's not just like a straight shape. So the thing you want to do is when you're doing any of these observational drawings, you really want to look at it and look at what the lines are doing, and not just look at an eye and then draw what you think an eye looks like. You know what I mean? You need to look at it and really follow the lines. So the first thing is, if you just look at my cursor here on the right, is we're going to start with the eyeball and then the iris in the middle. And the reason why it's called an eyeball is because your eye actually is round, even though here it looks like it's more that lemon or that almond shape. But if you think of underneath your eyelids, like your eye is like a perfect sphere, it's a ball. And that kind of goes for this iris here in the middle as well. This is actually a perfect circle. It just doesn't look like it because it gets covered by the eyelid. So I actually like to start kind of with this perfect circle in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to loosely try to draw a circle. And if you just keep your wrist stiff and you do a bunch of circular motions, eventually this will come out to a nice circle. And then as you draw more and more, it'll get darker. And you can kind of see that nicer circle there in the middle. And I'm going to do the smaller circle on the inside. Same process, just kind of smaller, trying to get kind of the positioning of that where I want to. Okay, so I'm going to start with that just as like my underneath drawing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to layers now, and I'm going to add a layer on top. And now I'm going to go to black. And on my pencil, I'm going to go with a smaller size because I'm just doing thin pencil lines. My opacity can be pretty dark here because it depends. If you want this to be still more practice sketching, you can go lighter. If you want to be more part of your final, I'll do a little bit lighter actually. All right, so just want to make sure. Okay, so I'm on my new layer. Now what I'm going to do, if you look at my cursor on the right, I'm going to focus on where this eyelid crosses over so that I get the right shape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow this carefully and look at the shape and the way that it's kind of moving around. So I'm going to start like right up here, and I can see where it kind of cuts off up there. Okay, and then it's going to come down over here. And then I'm just really following, I'm looking carefully and following the lines. Remember, this now I'm just doing as like another light sketch, so I can go over this later and kind of finalize it a little bit more once I actually get it to be more like what I want. Okay, so I'm going to start with something kind of like that to start, so you can kind of see that light sketch in there. And so now I think that looks pretty good, so I'm going to go darker. I'm going to darken up my pencil now, and I might go on another layer on top and really finalize this. You don't have to do as many layers as I'm doing. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. But now that I have that laid out, I do like the way that that looks. So now I'm going to go ahead and get that nice solid outline there just to get me started. Okay. All right, and then what I can do is I'm going to get this middle part in now. So I can see I'm going to go right along the edge. I kind of like the positioning of that. And then I like kind of the positioning of this side here. Try to get that circular edge, and then I'm going to go ahead and try to get that circle in there where that belongs. Okay, now what I'm going to do so it's a little bit easier to see is I'm just going to click these eyeballs next to my other layers so I can see. So now that's kind of like my fairly accurate sketch here. Okay, and now you're going to see this isn't a perfect almond. You can see that these lines are a little bit more intricate. There's kind of this little dip that happens on the left, you know, and then we can kind of see like there's some stuff kind of going on in here. We'll get to the shading here in a minute. But now the other key components here is that there's going to be a line on the top for the eyelid. So you want to make sure you kind of go along the top, look at the spacing. If you draw the eyelid like too far away, it's going to look really bad. So you want to make sure you get in there pretty close. Look at exactly where that eyelid is, you know, on the example. And once again, this might be different depending on if you're doing your eye or if you're doing my example eye or whatever. Okay. And then we are going to include the eyebrow in this, so I would like you to include an eyebrow in here. So what I like to do for the eyebrow is just a light outline sketch of the shape, and then I'll show you how we fill that in a little bit here. So I'm just going to just kind of lightly go up here and just roughly get the shape of what this eyebrow is. It's just like a shape here. Okay, so I've got something kind of up there for the eyebrow. Okay, so now what I would do is if you look at this eye here, there's a lot of intricate shadows and shading and things like that. What I recommend you do if you're doing this with a pencil or if you're doing this program, I would just start with some light shading underneath. Like think of this in layers. And actually, I'm going to just get this little lower eyelid on here too now that I'm seeing it. Just a rough sketch because that's where those bottom eyelashes are going to go. Okay, and we kind of solidify that in later. So what I like to do for my undershading is you could do pencil or charcoal. I'm going to do all mine with pencil. So I'm going to bring the size all the way up. So I'm drawing very thick, but I'm bringing the opacity way down. And this is going to be like my lighter shadows. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I might start on this inner part of the eye here, and I'm just gonna kind of lightly get a base shadow in here. And I'm going to get kind of just because if you think about it, your eyes aren't like pure white. Like there's always going to be some little bit of shadow. So like a very light gray or very off gray, there's going to be something like that going on. Okay, so I'm just going to focus there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to up my opacity a little bit. I might go a little bit thinner with my brush, but this will allow me to get darker. And remember, the more you layer over, the darker it's going to get. So now I'm going to do a second layer here and just try to darken this up a little bit. And I'm going to think about kind of the angle and the shape. It's kind of rounded, so I'm going to kind of go a little bit round here. I'm going to add just a little bit of shade out here, maybe just a little bit up here. Okay, and then that kind of comes down here and gets a little bit darker in there. And then I'm just going to go a little bit darker on my opacity. And then I'm going to go back here. Now it gets really dark. So if I just kind of keep layering this over, it's going to get darker and darker, but I kind of want to blend at the same time. Okay, and I can just keep rubbing there to get it darker and darker and really get that intense darkness that we have back there. Okay, and there's a little bit of darker areas there, but now my brush is a little too thick. So I'm going to do some of the thinner details later. Now I'm going to go on this inner part, and you can see there's a lot of intricate detail in here. Now, the way this is done, I do have one of the handouts in the examples actually goes step by step and shows you how to draw this eye. So part of the process is doing an underlayer that's lighter, shading some of the darker areas, but then you can even come back with an eraser and like really pull some highlights out. So that's one way you can do it. I'm just going to do a rough, quick version of it here. So I'm going to bring my opacity back down again. I'm going to leave my size up, and I'm going to kind of get just what I think the lightest value looks like in here, and I'm just going to fill the whole thing in with that lighter value. Okay, so maybe something like this should be fine. Okay, and then I might bring my brush just a little bit thinner. So I'm just going to fill some of this in a little bit better here. Okay, and I'm going to get my brush here a little bit thinner. Go a little bit darker. Now I'm going to try to get some of these darker highlights and try to get some of that on there. So I'll just do like a little part here. I'm not going to do the whole thing just because you guys don't need to sit and watch me do this whole thing. I have a finished example there, but you can see how I'm just trying to get some of these darker details just by rubbing. And in this program too, I could go back in with an eraser and I could pull highlights out if I need to, just like if we were doing it by hand. So yeah, you can just see I'm going in and trying to start to fill in some of those darker areas. This part here would be pretty much like pure black, so I would probably go full opacity, whatever size you're comfortable with in there. But this here is going to be really dark, so I'm going to try to make this little circle where the highlight is. There we go, and then if I work around it, I should be able to get this in pretty dark. Okay, so that's the basic process. So like I said, I won't do all of it, but the basic process for all this, like the outside, same thing. Use a wide, if you're doing digital, use the wide pencil tool or charcoal. Do really light undercoatings and then blend out by making it slowly darker and darker and darker. And then you can just keep adjusting your pencil size as you need. Now, let's say I'm doing like the eyelashes and like the eyebrows. Okay, what I would do is, I'm going to turn this opacity down really quick. I'm just going to quick get some basic shading. This isn't going to be like finalized, but the idea is the shading would be done first. So let's say that we're all shaded. Let's say this was all shaded down here. Okay, and then let's say you would actually like shade underneath the eyebrow and just like have that filled in, whatever value you kind of see underneath. I would do kind of like a little bit of a lighter value. Okay, and then all of these little skinny eyelashes and the eyebrow hairs, you would draw those. And what I would do is with the pencil, I would go lowest size, like really skinny lines, highest opacity, because the hairs are really dark and really skinny. Okay, so let's say I'm doing the eyebrow up here. You can see I can make a bunch of these thin little dark hairs, and I can actually look at what direction they're going. And I have these hairs layered over the top. Okay, and you would just do that for the whole thing and really fill out those eyebrows with those hairs. And then since you did that shading underneath, you've got that nice value underneath kind of hiding there. Okay, with the eyelashes, essentially what they're doing, they're kind of curving in, like, at an angle, but then they all kind of curve in and kind of create a really nice dark edge here. So I'm going to really darken this edge. And then all of these little hairs are going to keep coming out at like a nice little curve. So I'm not going really slow. I'm not taking my time trying to draw the hairs exact. I'm just looking at the motion of the hairs and doing very quick little strokes and then trying to get them all to kind of curve into this nice little area here. And then down here, they're kind of curving out of here. And you're just making nice quick little brush strokes to get the idea of those lashes coming out. And here there are even bottom lashes. Okay. And this applies to men and women. Some people think that, when they draw, they only draw eyelashes on women, but men have eyelashes too. So whether you're doing male or female eyes, if they're eyelashes, you want to make sure you draw those in. So that's not perfect, but that was just quick to give you an example. So I don't want this video to go too long, but that's basically how you do it. So start off, like I said, get your circles in. I would get like this circle in and then the inside circle, and then you kind of get this drawing in around it. Okay, draw some of your main detail lines so you know where they go. Then I would just start with layers of shading, get the blending in. And then the final step is going over the top and getting those really thin lines. So this isn't finished by any means, but this was just a quick little start to kind of show you guys how to draw eyes, okay? So then what you do is practice however much you need to practice. I'm not going to have you turn in practice drawings. I'm going to let you just decide on your own. But then I'm going to have an eye assignment where you're going to turn in your best shaded eye drawing. So draw it really nice and big, shade it. I want you to have the full eye, the eyebrow, and then some of this back shading behind it. So if you look, basically, I want you to get something like this, what you're seeing here. And then if you look at my canvas, I'll have a canvas example like fully done. If you look at that, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Okay, so that's how you do the eye drawing.